Hi everyone, it's Martin from Gnome Software, and welcome to our third webinar on floor plans and maps, or maps and floor plans. And as I said, my name's Martin. We'll be joined by Karen later on afterwards with the Q&As. As always with the Q&As, please ask your questions during the webinar, because once I call in for Karen to obviously give me the questions, we'll stop taking them because there's there's a time delay. Okay, so with that said, with the Q&As, if we can stay on topic as well, because obviously, as you're probably aware now, we are recording all of these, so any questions, we want them to be with the topic that we're covering. Right. Okay, so moving on then, we've got the if you do want to ask questions, here is a screenshot of what hopefully you guys will be seeing. So you'd use the Q&A tab at the top, and then you can type in your questions. Okay, right. I've got this project here, Crisp Edges. Now, this is a continuation from last week. Somebody asked us, I believe it was a guy called Simon, about the maps being sharp, and I turned around and said, well, if you are scaling up or scaling down, you will pixelate. If you use the map where it tiles it, it should be okay. Now, what Thomas did was have a look at this, and he's come up with something. Now, this is the example. The top one is using a bit of CSS to sharpen the edges, and it's using what we call or what is known as nearest neighbor. So in other words, as the map scales or the image scales, it's either using a black and white. What it does mean though is if we reduce the size of it, you'll see more like interference lines, or moire if you like, but interference lines. And as we get down and get smaller and smaller, you'll see that some of the lines will then start to disappear. You'll see the lines in this section. I know it's very small and it's hard to see, but we've got lines missing here. But what it does do is here you can see that these numbers are still black and white, where the ones below, because Pano 2 VR by default uses bilinear. So, if we're in between, so we're 50% white or 50% black, it's a grey, and we use a grey pixel. This is why these numbers look a little bit greyed out and can look a little bit blurry. So what I'll be doing then is at the end, as always, what I do is I package this up, and you can download all the project files. So here it is. This is the piece of CSS that you stick into the inner the inner part of the map, and that will then take you to the nearest neighbor and perhaps give you that bit of a sharper image. But as I say, after the webinar's done and we've made the video and got it all up onto the web page, you'll be able to download all of these images anyway. Right, okay, so with that said, what I'm going to do is now move on to this week's webinar, which is Maps and Floor Plans Part 3. So let's open up the project. Here it is. It's our part project. I've already set the nodes. The nodes have location data, so they're on a map, and I've already, if you like, linked automatic link in sequential, which has given me the link all the way around. So I've now got all my hotspots set. Okay. Now, in the past, what we've done is use the map element. So let's just open up the skin. I'm going to grab a map. Here we go. Let's make it so big, and I'll keep its name at map 1 and make it 10 pixels from the top, 10 pixels from the side. And we'll leave it as a Google map to start with, he says. And what I'm going to do is I've got a Google API key that I've just created just purely for this screencast. So I'm just going to paste that in. All right, and close this and save. I'm going to save the skin. So let's go to the project. I'll tell you what we're going to do. Where have I put it? Bear with me 2 seconds. I've lost where I've put the project. I've probably left it on my little drive. Hold up. Let's just get that out of the way. Where is it? Maps and Floor Plans Part 3. Right, okay. So that's where it needs to go. Close, save, desktop, maps and floor plans part 3. Sorry, here we go, and it's skin. Right, so that's that. So, right, let's create the output and have a look, and there it is. Because I put my API key in, I don't get any problems with the map, and we can see it. So this is this is the standard Google roadmap. From the map element, we can select various maps. We've got I don't know. Let's go for the satellite view. Save, open, and we can see the satellite view. So that's quite cool. Well, what we can do with the skin is I can introduce a button. And I can call this, let's just call this map road. And I can now give this the action of mouse click, maps, change maps, and Google roadmap. So on click, it will select that. Now, I've set the map itself for the default for the satellite. So what we'll do is we'll just publish this out. So it opens in the satellite map, and when I click this, it takes me to the roadmap. What I want to do is make that text box. So it says, let's just put road map. There we go. Right, okay, so, and as we always do, because it's our text box, it's going to be a button, I'm going to give it the hand cursor, and to tidy it up, I'm just going to get rid of the border. Right, so I've now got a roadmap. What I'm going to do here is copy this and paste it. So I've now got 2, and I'll just call this map sat for satellite. I'll just drag it down a bit. We'll change the label on it. So that's going to be a sat map. And we just need to give it a change of action, which is mouse click, maps, change maps, and now we're going to change the satellite map. And the target, of course, is this map element, which is map 1. You may have heard me say in previous webinars that we can have more than one, because we can have one map element set up for displaying Google or maps, and then we can have one map element set to display floor plans. So, you know, when you're setting these buttons, it's important that you know which map element you are affecting. Right, okay, so with that said, here we go. So we've now got the satellite map and the road map, and we can switch between them. Right, okay, so that's maps, and that's Google Maps. But with Pano2 VR, one of its key advantages is that you can use different types of maps. So let's open up the tour map, and you can see that the tour map itself, we use world map as our default. But if you want to add a different kind of map, you can hit the add map button. We're going to add map. And now we can, like the first one it opens up to is map provider OpenStreetMap. And we can choose between terrain and streets. All right. If I go to terrain, basically it needs to update. One of the things with OpenStreetMaps is that the map tiles can come quite slowly. But yeah, you can see that this was all working. I'm just going to call this open. All right, but that's his map 1. Once I've created this map within the tour map, I can close this, go back to Pano2 VR, and I can now select this map 01, which is now going to be my tour map. So let's publish out and have a look. And there it is. So this is the OpenStreetMap. Now, people are going to say, yeah, but OpenStreetMap's meant to be free, and you've still got the Google things there, and it's still going to be, you know, blah, blah, blah. Right, okay. The thing to remember is that regardless of what map you're calling, you need an API. So it's either going to be the Google API or the Leaflet API. The Leaflet API is the one that's free, okay? Now, you can use both with these OpenStreetMaps. So that's why you've still got the Google logo at the bottom. What the Google API does, because it's a paid API and it's far more refined. So if you click a hotspot, hang on, let's just, as you can see, if I'm clicking around, the map's not following me. So what I want to do, you may remember from last week's, is we can get the node change to center the node. So basically the map will now follow us as we click around the hotspots. All right, so now the map opens with the spot in the center. and when we click, we move around. But you can see that the map is moving. It's not just displaying one area and another. We have this like a nice smooth transition effect between the map pins. All right. Again, this is the difference between the Google map and you're paying for it. If we select this and say on map 1, let's use the Leaflet API, you'll see the difference. Okay, so let's open this up. We've still got the same map. We've now lost the Google branding at the bottom, but now when we click nodes, we're just changing. So if this is important to you, then obviously you stick with the Google API. If you stick with the Google API and you've got a very, very popular tour, each time the map is opened, you're taking credits from Google. I think Google give you about $200 free credits a month. If the map is opened enough time to go past that, you will then start to get billed for it. Okay, but with the Leaflet API, it's free to use, but it's not as nice visually. So that's your decision that you make. Anyway, so this is the OpenStreetMap. What I can do with my project is I can copy this button and paste it, move it down, and we'll just call this map open. We'll change the label as well to open, and then mouse click, and we're going to change it to map 01, and the target is map 1. Right, okay, so that should open that. What will probably happen now is we're on the OpenStreetMap. If I click satellite map, I'm going to lose the Google because I'm not using the Google API. If you want to have the road map and satellite map, you must select the Google API, and of course that now will work with everything. So again, you know, if you're saying to customers, oh yeah, we can have a map and we can change between, you know, the road map and the satellite map and the OpenStreetMap, you've got to think about the API that you're using and the potential costs involved. Okay, so that's that one. What other maps can we use in Pano 2 VR? Well, if I go back to the tour map, I'm going to select to add another map, and we've got Mapbox. Now, as soon as I click Mapbox, it says Mapbox requires an access code token, blah, blah, blah. Now, I do have an account for this, and I'm not sure which screen it's going to pop open into, so I'm not going to click that. But basically, if you want an account for it, you click this button and it will take you to it. Now, what I have got is I've already copy and pasted my access token. So I'm just going to copy that and paste that in there. And basically, what we've got here with Mapbox is that you get 3 basic maps, and you know, let's just open this and see where it goes. There it goes. Might get it off screen before it opens. Oh, actually, I'm not signed into this, so it doesn't matter anyway. Okay, right, okay. But basically, you can go in and you can adjust and you can customize maps. And basically, how that works is you actually get a token, and then you also get a URL for the map. So you can either use one of the predefined. So I've got a satellite map that's free to use. If we go to, let's close the tour map, open up and go again to the Leaflet API. I'm going to now select map 2. I'm going to actually create another button, so let's copy and paste that, and let's just call this map box. All right, and let's just go, so that's going to be I'll just call that map box, and that needs to open. Mouse click, change map, and we are going to be changing to map 2. All right, so that should, he says, give us the street view, the satellite view. All right, so we're now using the free Mapbox, and we've now got a satellite view on that. So yeah, that's quite cool. So there are lots of alternatives to the Google Street View and Road and all that sort, and all the other maps. But I do believe there is zoom limitations on Mapbox. Here we've reached the limit. We can't get any further. But on the Google satellite, you can zoom in that much further. Okay, so that's that one. Let's have a look at another map that we can use. Let's add another map, and we are going to look at custom. So Google custom styles. Now this is quite interesting because you can put the API key into the map element, as we know, but you can also put an API key in here. So if you're building a map for a customer, they've got their own account with their own API key. You can create a map for them and stick their API key in here. Now again, when we select custom maps, if I click on this website, you'll see that it says create a custom style. So let's do that. And basically I can, let's look at retro. We can now limit or and decrease the amount of data on these maps. Here we go. So you've got that. You've got loads more options here. I mean, obviously getting into them yourself in your own time, but yeah, there's loads of options there. When you've actually created the style that you want, what you need to do is copy the JSON file. So we're going to click that, close it, can get rid of this, and then we've got this paste button here. So I'm going to click paste there. All right. Now, because I've got the Google API in the map element anyway, I don't need to put it here. But if I put it here, then I don't need to have it in the map element. But you can see there is my map. Here we go. So here we go. Right, so that's the map. So let's close the map element. What one? This is map 03. So let's add another button. So it's copy and paste. Let's call this Google custom. Again, map G custom, and that is going to be map 3. Okay, so let's close, save, and let's have a look at that. Now it's blank, and it's blank because I'm not using the Google API. All right, so let's select that. So I'm now using my API key, and we should now have the Google custom map. There we go. All right. Now, one of the other maps that we can add, or the last map we can add, which I think separates us from anyone else, is the ability to add custom map tiles. Oh, let's cancel that. Custom map tiles. Now, if we go to custom, and basically how this works is that there are some map providers that offer you tiles. Now, if the URL ends with the XYZ coordinates and their ping files, then we can bring them in. Let me have a look. I've got a website somewhere. Let's bring this. Let's have a look and open up the website. So this is one of the providers. Here we go. Now I kind of like this watercolor map. I think it's quite cool. So yeah, it's quite cool. But there's various other maps you can select on here. Again, when we package up this project, I'll make sure that you've got the links to these various map providers. But the map I like is, as I say, the watercolor. So basically, if I double click and paste that in, watercolor. If I now change the map, here you can see we've got the watercolor map. So I can now close this. This is map 4. I'll add another button. So let's copy, paste, bring that down. Let's just call that map WC watercolor, and we'll just call that watercolor. Okay, and now the map and the action for that is going to be mouse click, change map, and that's going to be for map 4. Okay, so what we should have now, I'm now still on Google, but again we could have gone to the Leaflet API for these two, but obviously all the Google maps need these. Right, so there you go. We've got, we can now switch between various different maps, and all the map pins work, and the maps can follow us, and yeah, that's quite a nice little feature. Right, so next, custom map pins. Now these are our default map pins. Now before I do, something else I want to show you actually, and that's map clustering. I don't know if you've heard of that or not. If you haven't, don't worry. But basically, if I turn on clustering, I can't have a custom node marker. But this is what I want to show you. If you've got a map that's got lots and lots of map pins in, you're going to get too many. It's going to become too populated. But as you zoom out, they'll cluster together. So you'll just get a graphic that says, 2 or 3 or whatever. And as you pop out, there's another graphic that's 4. So when you click that graphic, it zooms in and you see the 4. If I zoom back out again, it's got 2 lots of 2. If I click there, it zooms in and I see those 2 nodes. So if you've got, a very large area of nodes, rather than having all these map pins dotted all over the place, if you're happy with these graphics, you can just, use the map clustering, and that tidies up the map for the viewer. All right, so that's what the map clustering is all about. So let's go back to this, and what I'm going to do is deselect map clustering. Now, we've already spoke about radar beams, colors and size. We did that in the floor plans, but I'll just quickly recap that. When we obviously show the map, we show the map pin with the radar beam. If we didn't want to see the radar beam, we can deselect it. We can change the color of the radar beam, and we can change the size of the radar beam. So that's just that. Right, okay. Now, as I said, I want to use a custom map pin. So I'm going to go to the components toolbox, and I'm going to select this component, which is a map element map pin. So this is telling you what it's for. Don't be confused with this one. This is a map pin with radar for silhouette. This is for if you're bringing a PNG image into the skin for a floor plan. It doesn't have to be a floor plan. It can be a map, but a PNG image. But if you're dealing with the map element, you want this one. So I'm going to double click and add this. Here it is, the map pin. Let's just move it over here so it's easy to see. And what I need to do now is just select the map element and tell it to clone as marker, and it is going to be the map pin. All right, so when we do that, click close, save, and publish. What we should have now is these custom map pins. We've now got blue ones, and the active node is now red. What we've also got with these is when we hover over, we get the tooltips as well. All right, which is, yeah, that's quite a nice touch. All right. Okay, so that's the map, the custom map pins. Right, what else do we want to cover? Right, let's have a look. Okay, so that's the map pin. But what I want to do, so let's go back to the skin, is I want to add custom icons to different locations within the map. Actually, let's come out of that. And the way that we're going to do that is using tags. All right, so I'm going to select the first panel, which is the pavilion. I'm going to go into the user data, and I'm going to give it the tag pav. All right, so for pavilion. And I'm going to use, I'm going to go to the Johann Strauss one, and I'm just going to type in JOH. So these are my tags for these 2 panoramas. Okay, so that's John and Pav. Okay, right, so with that known, I've now got 2 tags. What I can do now is bring in, let's just change that. I can bring in an image. So here you can see I've got the Pav, the pavilion image, and I've got the Johann Strauss image. I'm just going to bring in the Pav one. I'm going to work with this first and show you a way of doing it, not the way that we're going to end up doing it, but a way. And that is, I'm going to add that to, or just dump that on top of the map pin. I'm going to expand the map pin in the tree so I can see the child elements, and I'm going to drag that and bring that in. Okay. In fact, I'll move that underneath the text box. So now what's going to happen is the map pin's going to have all of these images, which is not going to look particularly great. So let's just show you what this is going to do. See, so I'm now using that image on all of them, which I don't want. Right, so how we can do this is if I select this, I can deselect visible, and then I can turn around and say that if the tour has the tag, or has the tag, what's this, Pav, pavilion, so Pav, then it to be true. So theoretically, it should now only be visible at that one location, which it is. You've still got the active pin underneath it, but you can now see that, right, okay, we can now use these images in set locations within a map. Okay, So let's go to the watercolor because that's easier to see. Right, okay. So that, with that said, how do we make this better? Now, I could select the active pin, all right, and say, look, when it's active is true. I could give it the logic that to say that if the tag, so pav, so if does not contain the word pav, right, or the tag pav. So think about this. So if the node is active, okay, and the tag doesn't contain pav, then don't show this active pin. So theoretically, when I open up the map, all right, what you're going to get is now no active pin behind it. So we've told it, but that's a big deal. That's quite a lot of work to actually sort of program into, or not program, but to set the logic blocks to say, well, don't show if you've got certain tags. So what I'm going to do is show you something pretty. I'll tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to file save as, and we'll save that as 1. All right, and carry on. What I'm actually going to do is I'm going to delete all of these. He says I'll delete all the images. All right. And I'm going to close the skin, because what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go to the Advanced tab, and I'm going to add, under the Assets section, right, add files, some images. I'm going to add the Johann Strauss. I'm going to add the map pin active, map pin normal, and somewhere is the pav image. Okay, so I'm going to click open, and I'm now saving these to my project. Okay. Now, the idea is that when you save and output, right, let's just get that out of the way. I'm going to right button click and open in Finder. If you're on the PC, that would be Open Explorer. Here is my output folder. And if we now look, we should have an assets folder, and here are those images. Okay, so the file path from within Pano 2VR to get to these images will be assets, depending on device / or /, then the file name of the image. Right, okay, so let's get back to me destroying the map pin. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to select the external loader, all right, and I'm going to make this external loader, I don't know, 40 by, I don't know, let's think about it, 70 pixels. Okay, I like to roughly place it in the skin. Once it's roughly placed in the skin, I then put it in its proper place. So I'm actually going to call this map_image, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to anchor it at the bottom. So I want it side to side 0, so it's now lined up straight, and I'm going to set 0 so it's now anchored to the bottom, because don't forget my radar beam will be coming from the bottom. So if I set that to the center, the text box will be coming halfway through, but then the radar beam will be pinned from the center as well, which I don't really want that to happen. Okay, so that's my external loader set. All right, so what I'm going to say in the external loader is, under normal circumstances, I want you to fetch assets / map pin normal dot is it PNG, right? So map pin normal PNG. Okay, so let's close and save this, and let's have a look, and we should now have little blue markers. Yay, we've got blue markers, so the plan is working. Right, let's go to the external loader, because one of the things you saw was it had a black border, it had a white background, looked ugly. So I'm going to deselect the white background, I'm going to take away the black border, and what I'm also going to do is I'm going to anchor the image, because at the moment it was anchored top left. I'm going to anchor it middle bottom. All right, and what that is going to do is bring it in line with the radar beam. There we go. So there we go. So these are my normal map markers. Okay, now what I'm going to do with the external loader is say when when that node is active is true, I want to use map pin active. So now on an active node, I want to see the orange one, which was my map pin active. So let's export this, and theoretically, boom, here we go. We've now got our map pin active. Okay, right. All right, now I've got two nodes that I want to show a custom image in. Okay, so I'm going to select the map, external loader, and under the logic block, I am going to say, all right, that I'm going to add a new expression, and I'm going to say tour node tag equals pav, and I want to display the image pav, which is short for pavilion.ping. All right. Now, while I'm at it, I'm going to add another expression, and I'm going to say when the tour node tag equals JOH for Johan, I want to display the Johan image. So like that. Okay. Now this is going to go terribly wrong, but that's okay, because I want to show you why. Okay, so if we have a look at this, it's gone horribly wrong. I haven't got, here should be the pavilion. I'm not seeing the pavilion. I'm not seeing, the pavilion's move. Yeah, it's a mess. And the reason why that's happening, all right, and this is what I want you to explain, was what's going on with the logic block, because we work from the top down. So what's actually happening, as soon as the tour starts, it's going from the top down and saying, right, well, that's active, boom. So I'm just going to use the map pin active. What we need to do is bring these above it, okay? So we have this. So the idea is that we will look down and say, right, well, that particular node's got the pavilion, so we'll put the pavilion image in the map. This one's got the Johann Strauss image, so we'll put that in the map. Oh, and that particular node is active, so I'll give you a true the map pin active pin. All right, so that should, he says, give us some nice images, right? But it doesn't. They're still too big, right? Now the reason for that is that they are indeed big images, okay? But if we go back to the external loader, this has some more settings, all right? Now by default, all right, we're saying that we're scaling the content. No, we're not. So it's actually showing the image its full size inside this external loader, which I don't want. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to select that to minimum. In other words, it's going to fit within the constraints of the external image loader. Okay, so now when I save and we export, we should now start to see some nice sized icons. There we go. Now that, again, you could argue is still a little bit too big, but that's fine. That's the whole beauty of the skin editor. I can go in here and say, right, I'm going to lock the aspect ratio. Let's take that down to say 30, make it a little bit smaller. All right, so now when we save and close and publish or export, we've now got slightly smaller graphics. Here we go. So that's fine. Yeah, so that's where we are with that. And we can again swap the maps, and we can use the watercolor, and of course this will all work with any map that we've that we're using. The road map, satellite map, back to the watercolor. Also, this works with the floor plans. So let's not forget that obviously this is the third in the series of the map for the map element. So everything we've covered, like floor plans and everything else, this also works with that. Okay. So yeah, that's a nice little thing there. Right, now, as you can probably see, we're using default point hotspots. So what I'm going to do is go to the second node in, and you can see I can select a hotspot, and we can give it a custom node image. So let's select the hotspot. Let's go to the properties panel with the hotspot selected. If I cursor down, I can use a custom image. So on that particular one, it's going to go to the Johann Strauss statue. So I can select that, resize that to what I want. All right. So I've now got him there. I can now select this one, which is the pavilion. Again, select a custom image. Let's go to the pavilion. Open that. I can resize that. Oops, to what I want. Yep. There will do. And export. So now when I go to the second node in, you can see I've got my custom images. All right. Now you'll have to do, now the custom node image is a really great quick way of doing it. If you want custom nodes and you don't want to go into the skin, so if you didn't have a map or any of this other palaver, you just basically wanted a standard tour with hotspots, but you wanted custom images, that's all you would do. You don't have to touch the skin, don't have to do anything. All right, it's as simple as that. But obviously you would need to do that with every node. So if I was to, if I was to go to the bridge, whiz it round here, what I would need to do here, because this takes me back to the Johann Strauss statue, I would need to now add another custom image for Johann Strauss. So you can start to see that although this is very, very simple, you've got to put these images in. Right, but as always, there's a Hopki way of doing it. Right, so if we go to the components toolbox, and I am going to grab the default hotspot image. All right, so I'm going to select that and bring it over so we can see it. All right, so this is our standard hotspot image, and what this is really good, and I'll explain why this is good, is that you can see we've got our black image and our preview when we move over. But what's really good about this is you still get the custom image, because this particular component, all right, has the external loader here, all right, and it's been set up in such a fashion that we've actually said that if the hotspot custom image is blank, so there's nothing in there, don't show it. All right, so we don't show it, and we're seeing the default dots, or the default circles. But if there is a custom image in there, then this will take on the custom image, show itself, and these will say, if this has a custom image isn't blank, i.e. there's some data in there, then these will automatically hide. So there's a little bit of trickery going on between, in this custom hotspot image. So here we can see where we don't have any custom images, we see the hotspot images, and when we do have a custom image, we see the custom images. Right, now as I said, that's actually can be a little bit intensive to do this, especially if you want custom images everywhere. So what we could do, just cheating really, I can open up the what we're going to do. I'm going to select all of these. He says select that, get rid of that, and I'm going to select all of this. And actually no, what I will do is I'll leave the preview, but I'll deselect everything else and get rid of it, because what I can do now is the map pin, we're using the map pin's external loader because we've already set it up to display map pins and custom images. So what I'm going to do is copy this, select the the canvas, and use the keyboard shortcut on the Mac command on the PC, Control V. There's my map image. I'm going to bring it down. All right, and I'm just going to change this to hotspot template, so HT image, and obviously I now need to move it around, so it's now going to be in the image. So with that selected, I need to make sure that it's side to side is correct, and with it set to there, so that's down, so that's where that's going to be. Right, okay, that's probably not where I want it. Let's have a look. That's too far down. Let's put it in the middle, and that's, well, okay, well, let's play with that. Okay, so we're gonna go with that and see what we got. So theoretically, if everyone's paying attention, is we're going to have, for the non-active, we're going to have the blue dots. Here we go. And when we click it and the map moves, we've still got our custom images because it's now being all driven by the external loader. All right, because don't forget, so I don't have to now, if I go back into this, all right, let's go back to the second node, I can delete this. All right, I can delete these. Actually, no, I'll tell you what I'll do. I won't delete those. I'll remove, because I actually want the hotspots. What I need to do is clear. That's what I need to do. Whew, that could have ended badly. I need to remove the image, so I'm going to select that and right button click and clear. So I still have my hotspot. I actually deleted everything and the hotspot, which is what I really don't want to do. Right, so that's just to show you that I've got no more custom images in the project, but yet I'm still seeing them. We're now seeing the ones, they're a little bit smaller because don't forget we made them smaller for the map. So what I can do is go back in to the skin, select the node, and I can make this a little bit bigger. So let's go to 40, and I don't know, let's do 60. Let's see how that looks. Alright, so we should have our map pins, and yeah, we've now got this a little bit bigger. I kept the tooltip, the preview image there, so we've got the preview images against going on the top of them, but you can now see that working quite nicely. Right, so just to recap on this, I took all of my custom images, so my map pin normal, my map pin active, all of my custom images I want for the map and in the tour for the hotspots, added them all into the assets, and then all we did was then add a, so let's go back to the skin, we added an external image loader. Its go-to fetch image is going to be the map pin normal, and then under the logic block we turn around and said that when it's active we're going to show the map pin active, which is the red one. Okay, but then when we went to add our custom images both in the map and in the tour, it's the same way we do this for both of the external loaders, for the map pin and for the hotspot. We can then add them by using a new expression and add in the tag contains whatever the image is, or the tag is for that node, and then set the image. But as said before, it's important, because we work from the top down, that we say these are the custom images. Oh, and then the last thing is that one's active, let's make it a red pin. All right, so that's that. Right, okay, well, I'm hoping that was if nothing else, that's been quite cool. We can also do other things as well with this, because he says, what else can we do? Right, well, I can turn and say in the external image loader that, let's go back to the map. All right, if I go back to the map, the map pin, I can turn and say that, what can we say? Actually, I could change that to if it's been visited. So theoretically, when we first open the project, all the map pins are blue, apart from the one that we're sitting on. All right. No, all the map pins will be blue. Right, that's it. Because what we needed to do here is say that if the node is active or is being visited, all right, we want to show the map pin active. Okay, so let's just have a quick look and see what that does in the map. So let's go to a node. So here it's active. If I move away from it, it's still red because it's now been visited. And if I move back, that's been visited. So you can now see in the map where you've been in location. So obviously I've changed these, but you can now see we've got that. All right. Now we can emulate that as well, actually in the tour. So again, if I go back to the skin, all right. So here we've got hotspot node. Here is the external loader for the node. Go back to the external, the logic block for it, and here we're changing from active to if it's visited, and or. So if it's visited or it's active, it needs to be red. Actually, no, tell a lie. We don't need to do that because we don't. Right. Rewind that. We don't need an active one. Why don't we need an active one? Because we can't see the hotspot of the node we're sitting in. So there's no point in having it active. Right, okay, so let's move on then. So let's show this, because that's the blue one. If I click it, this is the blue one. If I click it, if I spin round, we've now got a red one. If I spin round, I couldn't show that one because obviously it's using the custom image. But here we can now see that we've got this connection going on. We've now can see where we've been in the tour. Right, now what we've also got is if I hover over this map pin, we see a tooltip, and if I hover over this map pin, I see a pop-up. Right, now what I actually want to do, wouldn't it be cool that if I hovered over this map pin, that this tooltip worked as well, and vice versa? All right, so how do we do this? Right, well, let's go back to the skin. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to add a variable, and we're going to call this variable current, let's do underscore and HU hotspot URL, and I'm going to make it a text variable. All right. Okay. So that's a variable that I've set. What I need to do now is in the hotspot, I need to give it a couple of actions. I need to say that on mouse enter, all right, set variable value current hotspot to $HU to the current to the hotspot. All right, and I'm going to copy this and paste, and what I'm going to say now is on mouse leave, set the value to nothing, so we delete the value. So now what I'm doing is when I hover over something, I'm writing to that variable the hotspot's URL, and when I mouse away from it, I'm taking it away. All right, so we're adding and taking away that data. Now I'm going to copy those two. So I'm going to select, hold down the command or on the Mac and Control on the PC, select both of those, right button click and select copy. And I'm now going to add the same actions to the map pin. So it doesn't matter now if I use the map pin or the hotspot. I'm going to set the variable value to the URL. All right, okay. So what I can do now, let's try it with the map pin first. Okay, so here is the alpha to it, and the idea of this is when we mouse over equals true, it's going to turn it into alpha 1. All right. This other little logic block, or rather this other condition, is basically saying that if the user data doesn't contain anything, so we've got no title, not to display it. And the reason for that is if you've got a text box with no title or with no data in it, you may see a little blob in the output. It could be that you see, I don't know, the border and a bit of the white background, but it looks ugly. So what we're saying here is, well, look, if that node doesn't have a title, use data title, then don't display it. All right, so that's what we're doing there. But now what we want to do is to make this become visible. I'm going to go to the variable and say, right, well, if the current hotspot equals $HU hotspot URL, all right, then I'm going to show it, but it has to be in the right place, because basically if I move that up, what we're saying, if we mouse over is true, or the current hotspot equals the hotspot URL, so the current hotspot URL equals the URL, then we're going to show it. So theoretically, with all of that said, if I test this, we should get this with the map pin, and there it is. All right, so that's what's happening. I've now created a link between those two, but sadly I've not got one coming back, because what I have to do now is think about this for the hotspot. All right, I want the preview to do the same thing. So if I open up the preview, this has a little bit more, this has another condition in here, and it's saying if it's a tour. Now, just to talk you over this, mouse over if that's true, and the hotspot preview is turned on, because that is an option that you can turn it on and off. So if it's turned on, and if it's a tour. Now the reason why if it's a tour, because if you use this component in Pano 2 VR Lite, it doesn't have a cloner, it can't create the preview images. All right, so it doesn't have the node image, so it can't create the preview images. So what it's saying is that this will only work in a tour. All right, so what we can do then is to go back to our variable current HU equals the hotspot URL. All right, and now what we need to do is move that up there and say mouse over equals true, or the current hotspot the current hotspot URL equals the current URL, then it should show. He says with full confidence, and there it does. There you go. So we've now got interaction both ways with the map. How cool is that? Right, okay. Yeah. Now what we can also do is many things, which is let me have a think. We could have with the text boxes our visited. So I could say in a text box, let's just see here, it's no, wrong one. Let me have a think. Right, this one, the map pin text box. It's got a white background. We could turn around and say, if it's been state, hang on, to visited, if that equals true, I could change its color to say orange. All right, I'm going to copy that, and I can now go back to the text box and say, paste that in and say if it's visited is true, change the text to white. So we'll actually end up having a orange text box with a white background once it's been visited. All right, so here we've got that map pin, the playground. If I click it and then come back again, it's only when I come back it's now been visited. And now, oh, I've broke it. Okay, so what have I done? Let's have a quick look. All right. Okay, so what did I do? Right, so let's go to the didn't add it on color. Right, so let's have a look at this. So on color, we were saying that if the tur is visited equals true, I was going to change that to orange. Okay, I may not have okayed that. And this one we changed to white. So that obviously worked because we ended up with a white text box. So let's just have a quick look at this. So that's white. Go back. Let's have a look at that and come away and come back. And there we go. We're back to orange. So there you go. So that's that all working. Right. Okay. So we've now got a custom map. We've got custom map images in the map. We've got custom map pins that can either change or can go to visited. We can also change the map itself. What I want to show you now is how can we hide and show points of interest within the map. Okay, now this again works with tags. So I'm going to add a text box, and I'm going to add the text box, and I'm going to say this text box is going to be point of interest. Interest, and I'm going to underscore that, so pav, so pavilion. All right, so that's PI pav, so let's just put pav. And what we're going to say is, on a mouse click, all right, I want to set the value pav, which is the tag, to the map element. So that's going to be map 1. All right, so when I do that, what's going to happen, he says, let's have a look, is when I click that, I'm only going to show the pavilion. Everything else is hidden. Now, that's quite cool, except I can't bring it back again. Okay, so what we're going to do then is copy and paste, because I'm lazy. All right, and we're going to POI and clear. All right, and all we need to do then is just mouse click set value blank back to map 1. So that then brings it clears out all the tags from the map. So now I can show just the pavilion, and I can click well, pav, I didn't actually, let's go back and tidy that up, so when you guys see the project files, you'll see what's going on. Let's just put that to interest, point of interest, clear. Okay, so that's what that's doing. That's clearing all the points of interest. So what you could have here, all right, is a map of, say, a village or a town or a city. You could have custom icons for, I don't know, cash machines, pharmacists, all of that sort of stuff. And you can then have these buttons to highlight where the pharmacist is, where the points of interest are, so like your cash machines. And you can have a button here to clear it out. Okay, I'm sort of conscious of the time, but you know, this is I think quite comprehensive. We've covered a lot of things here. One of the last things I want to do is, bit frightening, but it's not. This is it. People say to me, don't like programming, don't like, JavaScript, all of that. But I do want to show you this because I want to show you how easy this actually is. I'm going to change the width of the map to 300, all right? And I'm going to set its anchor position to, or not anchor, its position to 0, 0, so it's top corner. But I'm going to set its height to 100%. All right, so it's now taking up 100% of the window, which it does. All right, cool. But what I want to do is bring this in and out with a button. But, and this is the big but, we're bringing this over the panorama. So our center line is still here. What we've got, we can use a little bit of JavaScript in a button that when we click it, it sets the margin of the panorama. Now, if we go back to the pano, or go back to the skin, you can see that we've got this skin canvas and we've got these margins. You see here left, I can actually type in 300 pixels. So it's 300, the same as the map. And when I close and save this, what we will get is the panorama now. The center line is here within the panorama. We've got this as a margin. So the panorama is only this area, okay? Now, wouldn't it be cool if we can do this on a button? So when the map's not there, I've got the full width, and when we click the map button, the map shows, and then the panorama scrunches up, and it's all cool. All right, because the idea is that when you click a node and you're in the middle, you want it in the middle and not offset. All right, so that's what we're going to try and achieve. So let's go back to the skin canvas and take that left setting back to 300. Okay, now I'm going to add another variable. All right, because this makes life a lot easier, and I'm going to call this viz_map. You can call it what you like. I tend to use my naming conventions of viz, opt, whatever, so I know what I'm looking for. And I'm just going to give this a true, false, so a Boolean type logic, and I'm going to set that to being false. Okay. Now I'm going to set the map element, so map 01. It's visible. I'm going to deselect visible, and I'm going to say when the variable map viz equals true, to show itself, so to be visible true. Okay, I'm now going to have a button to do something, so I'm going to stick my button there and just stick it at the bottom. In fact, what I'll do is I'll stick it there and have it 10 by 10 pixels, because I need to show you something else which is quite cool. So there's my button. So let's just call this map but, and we'll just say, or let's just call it map, that'll do. Okay, so it's got the action, the action now needs to be on a mouse click. I want to set the variable value to the viz map variable. Now it says equals true, so that click, and it's a one-way thing, so click and it's true and that's the end of it. But what I want to do is make it toggle, so I'm using this not. I mean, I'd love for that not to say toggle, but basically it means if it's not true, make it true. If it's true, it's not, and then, yeah, but it toggles. Just bear with me on that, it toggles. All right, so theoretically now then, what I can do is if I close, save, and publish, we've got the map. When I click it, it's the map there, click it, it's gone. All right, so we can now toggle the map. But we're not doing anything with this. All right, so that's fine. We're actually not doing anything. We're not moving the map yet. But just to quickly show you, if I go to the website, so let's do gnome.com. There we go. Been here before, apparently. Go to the documents. Go to 6.1. I'm going to go down to reference, and we have our JavaScript APIs. Now I happen to know, because I've been playing with this, it's under miscellaneous, and what I'm after, all right, is the one that defines the margin. So here you can see it says lets you define margins around the player that you would normally define in the skin editor, which is what we've just done. All right, so I'm going to copy this. All right, copy. All right, and now in my button, I'm going to add the action, mouse click, and with JavaScript we use a go to URL action, and because we can put in lengthy bits of text, we've got this little pencil button that we can click and it opens up a bigger window. And I'm going to paste this in. Now as a standard, this is just showing you what it is, so we actually do need to type in need to do that again. JavaScript : all right, so that's how we start that. And then what we're seeing here is it's telling me that for the left margin we need a number. Well, for the left margin I'm going to change that to 300. All right, and then for the top margin I'm just going to set that to be 0 because I don't want it to be changed. And again I'm going to do the same for the right and the bottom. All right, and then we finish off with a semicolon. So the only things that you do need to know is the data that you're putting into it, and the mere fact that it needs to start with a JavaScript with a colon, and it needs to finish with a semicolon. Once you get that, then that page starts to make a lot of sense, and you can start doing some quite nifty things with this. So if I click OK, and click OK there, close, save, and publish, you see that moved. Wow. If I refresh the page, you can see where this statue thing is. If I open the map appears and the panorama's squished over. Sadly, when I hide the map, the margin doesn't come back. So what I need to do just to finish this off is I'm going to copy that action and paste it. All right. And this time this action is going to be to take it back to 0. So no margins. Right, now don't forget we've got a variable toggling away, so I'm going to use an action filter, and I am going to say that when the variable vismap is false, right, I want this action to move the player over, or to move the skin move the panorama in the player over by 300 pixels. All right, and this one is going to be the variable vismap when it equals true, right? That when this action's clicked, it's going to put it back in. Now, does that make sense? I hope so, because I can't hear anyone. Right. Okay, so let's see what it does. Click the map. And okay, no, it's not. Right, okay, let's have a look at the logic then. Right, okay, so my map button. We have mouse click, set the variable, vismap. So what we've got here is mouse click, go to URL. We are setting the width of the margin to have 300 pixels, and we're doing that when the vismap equals false. That looks okay. The one to put it back, go to URL, set the margins back to 0 when the vismap equals true. That looks okay to me. But as we clearly saw, that wasn't working. So how do we debug this? Right, so that's gone over and that's not right. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to add my text box in my skin. All right, and then what I'm going to do with that is have a look at that variable vismap. All right, right, so that should give me what the variables do at the moment. So when I click that, it goes to true, and when I click that, it goes back to false. So that's all. That part of this is working. All right, so let's just go to the actions. Right, I'm getting a message from Thomas, which is good. Which is what we're doing here. Right, okay. You first change the variables, then you change the actions. Move the action down. Right, I'm losing that then. So mouse click, move the file down. So right, okay. So let's have a look here. Make sure that we've got the right order. That's probably not going to, and that's it. That's it. Right, there we go. There was my problem. Right, so that was it. what I've got is obviously the clicks and the variables needed to be in order. All right, so there we go. We've rearranged that and we're good to go. Right, so there you go. So this is it. So we've got the map. When we click the map appears, Panorama shifts over. When we close the map closes, the Panorama moves back. We've still got all these text boxes, but because we've now got this, let's get rid of this little text box here I used for helping me debug this. What I can do here is select all of those. I can say, right, I don't want to see any borders, so I can get rid of all the borders. I can also say that when the variable vismap equals true, I want to set it to orange. Do I? Yeah, I want to set it to orange. And I also, let's just copy this, go down to the text and say, paste that in and say white, so the text is going to turn white. Okay, so when the vismap is true. The other thing I want to do with those, because they're all visible, is I want to hide them. So I'm going to deselect visible and say, when the variable vismap again equals true, is to show all these text boxes. So what that's happening, I've just done that pretty fast, but I want to show you what the output is and what it's going to do, is that now I've got no buttons. I think it's all gone. All I've got is my map. When I click this to see the map, I've now got all of my text boxes here. I can text around or click around. We've now got all the different types of maps, points of interest. I can clear the points of interest to get them back. All of this, and we can hide and close the map. Right, I think that's floor plans and maps done to death. And what I'm going to ask now is, Karen, have we got any questions?
Hi. Well, there's a lot of information in there. I just want to quickly remind everybody that we are recording this, and you can go back and watch and relearn if you missed anything in there.
Absolutely.
I know.
Yeah,
My
absolutely.
brain is so full right now. I was totally spacing out watching all of this. So thanks for that. And yeah, and we.
Well,
We
thanks
also.
for spacing out your brain. Yeah, okay, cool. No, but yeah, no, you're quite right. There is a lot going on. I really didn't want to make this maps and floor plans part 4 because there wasn't enough for a full webinar after. So yeah, it was a little bit rushed, but as you say, it's
Oh,
being
I think it was
recorded.
cool. I mean, there was some crazy hints in there. Yeah. So, I learned a lot. But we
I've
do
just
we
seen I've just seen someone say no questions. We're overwhelmed. Sorry about that.
I'm still trying to process. Yeah.
Yeah,
But we do have some questions, and one question that I know we get asked often from Luke, how do you how do you make a map freely resizable by the user? Like, how can the user drag these maps?
I put this in the forum. It's a bit of CSS code that goes into the map element. I did put this into the forum. I don't know where I put it. Let's have a quick look. Let's see if I can find it. But yeah, I again, it's just CSS, which Pano2VR can, you can handle quite nicely. So let's just gnome.com. Let's have a look at forum. I don't know if I'm going to be able to put my finger on it quickly. If I can't, then I won't bother. But let's see if it's in the skins useful posts index. I don't actually think I've done this, to be honest. No, I didn't put it in here, but it's in the forum. If you I first posted it into the Facebook group, and then somebody asked me about it, so I actually built a project it's in the forum. But yes, you can. There's like a few little lines that you can click and drag, and then you can drag the maps all different sizes. The only thing I would say to you about that is, if you're going to use this, you have to use the Google API. You have to use the paid one. All right, you cannot use the free leaflet, because the free leaflet API really doesn't like you drag in the size of the map bigger, because it can't handle having to serve the tiles. It looks nasty. It doesn't work very well. You use the Pay Google API, and it works really, really nicely. So that's all I'd say. That's the only caveat with that, is that yes, we've got it. Yes, you can do it, but you will need to use the Google API for that one. Next
we have guest number 171, also known as Thomas. I'm sorry, I don't know why you're called guest, but I'm sorry about that. Thanks for letting us know your name. And his question is, if his client is already using a customized map, how can he use their map in Pano 2 VR?
Well, it depends on how it's been customized. As we saw with the map editor, the tour map, we can have all different sorts of maps. So if we go to the add map, we can use OpenStreetMap, Mapbox. So it depends on the provider. If it's a provider that's compatible with Pano 2 VR, then you can create a map within the tour map and bring that into the skin. If it's not, then no. I mean, that's going to be a cut and dried answer, really. But it really does depend on how they've built it. If it's a custom map, then it should be accessible by Pano 2 VR in some way, shape, or form. And that's if it's in one of these supported map providers. But yeah, I mean, as you can see, we support an awful lot already. But there's a lot of map providers out there, so yeah, it really does depend on them. And that's my answer to that one.
And Simon is asking if there's a library of hotspot images for everything, for nodes, images, info, videos, links.
We have.
That we provide.
Sorry, go on.
Go ahead. Nope,
I was
that's
going to say, we obviously have two lots of SVG graphic sets. We have the Simplex and Silhouette, both of which can be found in our forum. All right, you can go there, and we've got the zip folder that you can download, and you've got all of the different graphics that we use, and some that we don't use in our skins. So some that we've created to do other things and just not got round to adding yet. So, but they're all in there. But other than that, no. You can use pings, you can use SVGs, and other various types, but pings and SVGs and PNGs are really the main supported graphic types. And yeah, you can just create your own in Photoshop and use those. That's the beauty of this. You are not restricted to what our software is offering you. You can get an image from anywhere and bring it in and use it. Put it in the skin, give it actions, do what it needs to do. Brilliant. Next.
Great, thanks. I also just want to point out there are a bunch of icons that people offer in the forum.
Yes. Yeah.
And probably in the next version of Pano 2 VR, we'll probably have a larger library that's going to ship with the software.
We have a quick look in the file, just because you're quite right. If we go to skins, we have user design skins. And here, people post these up here for free to download for everybody to use. So yeah, there's a whole resource here for user design skins in the forum. There you go. Sorry, I just wanted to say that.
Yeah, thanks for pointing that out. All right, and let's see. Simon again asks, which is an important question, where can we suggest the next webinar's topics or ask for specific needs?
Email into support, I guess. My plan, or what my plan is, because one of the biggest things, which one of my bugbears is, Pano 2 VR, I'm not a programmer, right? Well, guess what, boys and girls? Neither am I. My background's electromechanical engineering, but I'm logical. I know that if I add an image to the skin, click it and drag it and drop it, and I can give it a mouse click and I can get it to do something. So they are the next set of topics I want to do. I want to sort of bring people into the fold and make them, feel comfortable using the skin editor. But in answer to the question, if you've got a topic and you want to, just send it in. At some point we're going to run out of ideas. So if you guys can give us ideas for future webinars, brilliant. But that's the way to do it. Is just emailing really is going to be the one to do.
support@ggnome.com.
Absolutely.
And finally, Brendan and Jeff wish you a really happy birthday.
Oh,
And
thanks,
we
guys.
also would like to wish you a happy birthday. Thanks for doing these webinars. They're so full of information. So yeah, happy birthday, Martin.
Oh, thank you very much. That's 54 years of it. All right. Okay. Well, that just leaves me to say, from me personally, thanks everybody for the birthday wish. I've seen my Facebook page has gone mad. It's great. And love you guys. Love our customers. You're all brilliant. So bring it on. And, until next week from me, it's goodbye. And Karen, over to you.
Yeah, thanks. See you guys next week. And just a quick reminder, tomorrow is another webinar on how to move from Panator Pro to Panato VR. So just a reminder to do that.
Oh.
And yeah, what?
Oh.
Yeah.
You were probably going to say this, and I'm now interrupting, but
right.
The webinar page under our documentation now has a subscribe button for the Karen, help me out, my brain's just gone blank. Subscribe to the webinar mailing list. That's the one I was after.
Yeah.
Mailing
right,
list.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So it's separate from the blogs and everything else. It's purely if there's a new webinar up and coming, you'll be notified about it. So subscribe away. Love to see you guys.
Yeah, and just really quick, I saw some people had some questions in, but we're really over time. So if you want to ask again, you know where to find Martin, and we can get to those questions.
Well, I'm going to be hiding for the rest of the day.
Yeah, right. Maybe not today. Not today.
But I'm going to sort of pop open a bottle of something and celebrate the birthday, as it were. But as always, for me, support email or Facebook or forum. I'm always hovering around all of those. So ask a question. But if you've got bugs or you really want something like webinars, then support email is the one. Because Facebook has this real problem. If somebody posts something in Facebook and the Facebook page is active, those posts can get lost very, very quickly. An email will hit us and it will stay in my inbox until I deal with it. So or we deal with it, not just me. It's a team effort. So it will stay there until such times that somebody from Garden Gnome will deal with it. So there you go.
Cool. All right. I think that's it, right? Then,
absolutely.
All right. So have a great evening, everyone, or day or morning, what time it is where you are. And we'll see you next week or maybe tomorrow.
All right. Cheers then. Bye.
Bye.